Well, you know, what I wanted to do today was just start pretty simple. Since the theme is Thanksgiving today, I thought I would start by just listing a few things today that I'm thankful for. And you may have already done this work. You may already be thinking about this. If you don't do it, try it around table on Thanksgiving Day and just ask everybody there to say one thing that they're grateful for. You may already have that tradition. Often we don't. We just pile into the food and try not to interrupt the football game. But today I wanted to say that the first thing I'm thankful for is this day. Not just this day as a gift from God, because every day is, but this day, this Thanksgiving gathering and this annual event in the life of this church, this goes back a long ways. And I love this day. I look forward to it all year long. I put a little bit of extra work into it through the week, as do a number of other people here right now. There's a few empty chairs in here today because a group of folks are down the hall, and they've been working, some of them, through the night. Some of us worked through the week last week to get the building ready. And so we just take extra measures as they come up and as we're inspired. This is a great day. But this day was inspired by tradition at First Christian Church. I remember when I joined that church, and it was 1983. I was still a relatively young man, as per our conversation a moment ago, Sean. And one of the things that they did every year was they took everyone out to eat at Roysdon Manor. And it was always around commitment time in September, October, November. I don't know. It took me a number of years to learn what commitment time was all about. And I think it's because they were so gracious at it. They didn't want us to think that all they cared about was money. And so some of us, Steve and I were a little group of folks, I don't know that we had much money to give, but boy, we went and we ate turkey and dressing at Roysdon. It was great every year. So when we started a church out here, like 14 years ago now, one of the things that we wanted to do was have meals together. And every once in a while, in honor of that tradition, and because Paul Graham has that kind of heart, he and Sarah would host this whole congregation. I mean, you know what it's like to take 110 people to lunch after church on Sunday? But we would go out to Roysdon, and boy, it was a dark day, wasn't it, when Roysdon closed? I don't mean to plug people during a church service, but we've missed those folks. Those were great meals. But you know what happened? I mean, it was the end of an era. The end had come for Roysdon Manor. But not for our meals and our fellowship, because we moved into this space here at the church and we began to take charge of those meals ourselves. And what you'll see today after church is the result of 14 years of working together until we finally got to a place where, to begin with, we actually own enough tables and chairs to seat everyone. They're very hard folded metal chairs. They're not real comfortable, but we've got space for everyone. We've got enough people and energy and enough resources to prepare a meal for 100 people today. Isn't that wonderful? You should be applauding and cheering right now. Because somewhere around the world in this season, there are people who cannot afford to feed one person. Somewhere there are families suffering. And I say this, and I'm going to say it again. The only thing harder than being poor is being poor with dependence. And there are people out there who are struggling. And so you should be applauding and be joyful that we have an opportunity to eat together and from day to day. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my church family here and for everything that has happened here in my life over the last 14 years. I've said it before, and I don't want to embarrass Paul or single him out too much, but Paul Graham, thank you for changing my life. I mean, I was... Don't wake him up. You know, I'm picking on you, Paul, but that's okay. I just tell you I love you, and you changed my life, sir, and I'm so grateful for that. And I've not forgotten it in 14 years, and God willing, I won't forget it for the next 14 or 40 if I'm lucky. So thank you, Paul, for... If you read this article that was in the Wylie Weekly, Sarah said, I mean, she always points this out, but there were like 4 other people who had, I guess you call us applicants. There were people who wanted this position. And Sarah always says that Doug's the only one who didn't write something in the line that says, how much salary will you need? So if you're going to take a chance on the guy that's broke, I guess. He's not got many expectations, but it started out so wonderful. I mean, people giving, and it's been that way for 14 years. You folks have saw to the health of my family in every way that you can. I'm grateful for the family at First Christian Church. First Christian Church gave me a foundation, as they did so many people who came here in leadership all those years ago. And it's a great tradition there. Those are people who are wonderful, who are normal people. They make mistakes, they fall down, but they kept getting up and helping me get up and helping others get up. And they are the ones who prepared us and prepared me for where I am today. I'm thankful this day, as you are, I'm sure, for my family. You don't get to pick your family, as I've said so many times. I may be the most thankful for some of them that I didn't or wouldn't have picked, because sometimes they have taught me the most about myself, and they have given me the most reason to persevere at times. But I'm grateful for all the members of my family. As many of you know, some of them live 1,000 miles from here in East Tennessee. And so today, as a lot of you know, that my father has been ill. And I was just in Tennessee a few weeks ago and spent a few extra days there with my father. And today, after this week of veterans recognition, I wanted to say that I'm very, very thankful for my father, a United States Marine for 17 years. And I'm grateful today for the breath that he gets. Some people have asked me this week why I'm short of breath. I hope it's allergies. But sometimes in my anxiety, I sit around and think about what it's like to not get a deep breath. And I feel a great empathy for my father, who struggles to breathe in these days. So I thank God for every breathing treatment and for every day that he's able to fill his lungs a few times. I love my family. I love my father. I thank God for my children. For all of them, their challenges, I'm going to tell you. I want to tell you this. It's very personal, but I think it's okay to talk about it. All of you know my story. But my son Levi is in the Daniel unit right now, and he has a job driving a forklift 5 days a week at a warehouse in Snyder, where he says he gets to drink coffee all day, and he is thankful for coffee. You see how little things are beginning to creep into his system of priorities. A cup of coffee meant very little to that young man a couple of years ago. Thus, he's in the situation he's in. But he's learning, and God is with him, and I'm confident, as I have been since the day he was born, that God is involved in our lives and the life of my son and all my children. I want to tell you the birth stories of my kids, because I've been through the gamut. You know, first let me say that I don't say this because I'm proud of it, but I don't hide things from you, that I've been married 3 times. So I'm not a 3-time loser. The 3rd time I got it right, and I got it right big time. I'm married up. I got lucky. Come on. Come on. And I didn't lose in the first 2, but things kind of had a way of working out. But I want to tell you that I paid child support for 17 years. 2 of those years, those children were grown, and they were out having babies and getting married. And people ask me, doesn't that bother you to pay support to their mother while they are out of the house? And I said, no, it doesn't. I owe the money to her. She spent the money raising those children. I got behind by her good grace and the good grace of the court. I'm still working and paying. And I'm fine paying that money to her. And she was kind enough to me to see to it that I paid every last penny of it, no matter how long it took. And let me tell you something, brothers. Where you at, Tony? I can finish stuff, buddy. I can finish stuff, man. Big things don't intimidate me. I can finish, man. So y'all got a big job, bring it to me. I can finish, and I'll help you finish if you need that encouragement. And then when I found myself separated and divorced for a 2nd time, you know my daughter Heather, and about the time she was 2 years old or 3 years old, she came to live with me, and I began single parenting. And it was during that period of my life that I met Shannon, and she became involved in our lives. And she became a real mother to Heather and a real friend to her. And over the next years, Heather's mother fell behind on child support, and when Heather turned 17 years old, her mother owed some $18,000 and was struggling to establish her own life and trying to outrun garnishments. Some of you men and perhaps a few women might know what I'm talking about. I've been in that boat too. But I remember going down to the Attorney General's office here in Abilene and saying, my daughter's moved out of the house and she's not 18 yet, but we need to stop these garnishments because she didn't live with me anymore, so Mama doesn't owe me any more money. Oh, well, we can take care of that. Get the right paperwork out. There it goes. So now, how much does she owe in arrears? Well, there's about $18,000 here. Okay? Well, I said that's a problem. I realize you're going to continue the garnishments until that's paid, so I want that to go away. You what? I want it to go away. Let's just forgive it. Well, I said, is that possible? Well, yeah, it is, but no one in Abilene has ever done that. We don't. So they had to call Austin and say, can you tell us what paperwork we need to pull out? And so it was that we forgave $18,000. So when I talk to people about child rearing, I can say this. You know, I've been a parent, a step parent. I've been a non-custodial parent. I've been a child support paying parent. I've been a child support collecting parent. I have known what it is to not receive forgiveness, and I have offered and extended forgiveness. I think I've covered the gamut. It doesn't make me an expert, but it makes me a spurt of some kind, I'm sure. So now my children's birth stories. My oldest daughter, who is 39 years old this year, she is my adopted daughter. She has a special place in my life because she's the only one of my children that I chose. She's the only one of my children that I dated because I dated her and her mother at the same time. She's the only one I courted and who courted me and who won my heart in that exact way. And so I know what it is to go to the courts and to the lawyers and the judges and say, I want to make this child mine. I want her to bear my name. My second daughter, with my first wife, she was born in 1979, and in that day I was in the waiting room, like in the old black and white movies, handing out cigars because I was not invited into the delivery room. And at that time I was extremely happy about that. And so after she was born, I think it was the next day I was allowed to go in and hold her, but I had to put on a gown and gloves and a mask and all this because I didn't want to make the baby sick. When my number 3 daughter was born, Heather, in 1986, we got to go into the labor room together, and they decided there that Mom was going to have a cesarean section. And because we had gone through Lamaze together, they said that if she has a general anesthesia or a local anesthesia, you can go with her. So I went into the delivery room and witnessed a cesarean section right there, and I saw my daughter Heather born, and they handed her to me, gloved and gowned, and I took her down the hall and I handed her to the nurse. Well, number 4 child comes along. That's my son Levi. And Shannon, being the strong woman she is, she's a milk drinker, let me tell you. She goes through more milk than the baby does, and between the two of them, we're over a gallon a day sometimes. And that stuff's more expensive than gas if you haven't been pricing it. So the next time you're whining about the price at the pump, try buying 5 gallons of milk today, okay? But anyway, Shannon, we follow her from the labor room into the delivery room, and there she gives birth to my son. The first time in 4 children, I'm there for a natural birth. And then, just like with number 3, they handed him to me, gowned and gloved, and I took him down the hall and gave him to the nurse. I watched Sean do that with Micah, and he almost inspired me to have another child. But I had a grandchild the same month, and I got, I got out of that. My number 5 daughter, Hannah, who you love, I know. By the time she was born, we found ourselves in a birthing room. And everything happened in one room. I never put on a glove or a gown. I don't think I put my shoes on for the whole event. I walked around in shorts and socks. And she was born in the same room that she was welcomed into the world by the nurses in. And probably 15 minutes after the whole thing's over, we had company in the room. My wife probably didn't think it was great. But those are my 5 experiences with childbirth, short of actually being able to do this myself, I've done almost everything that I could find a way to be involved in. And each one of these stories is different. There's another birth story, though, I'm involved in, and that's birthing this church. This task that began over 15 years ago when Paul Graham had a vision, and he and Sarah helped to form a committee, and people got involved, and we began the process of birthing a church. I remember 2 things that stand out this day, and there are so many that I'd have to think forever to get all of them, and I always leave somebody out. But the things I remember today are that first group that met for Bible studies in Paul and Sarah's living room for 8.5 years, even after we began worshiping here. And so were it not for that living room, then we wouldn't know the beginnings that we had. And I remember Ronnie Stanton's van. Ronnie used to bring all of the youth and children that we had at one time to church in a van from Clyde. And one time her van broke down, and we thought, if we want to continue our children's ministry here, we better help Ronnie get her van fixed. And so it was, we started children's ministries and youth ministries out of the back of a van, and the church began humbly in a living room. I remember, and I'm very grateful for a woman who worked in the New Church Start Ministries in Indianapolis. Her name was Judy Turner. She runs a retreat center now along with her husband in Arkansas, and I hope someday that all of you will have a chance to attend a retreat there and to meet Judy if you haven't. She was a coach for us for a lot of years. She took a special interest in this church and a special interest in me. She attended worship here with us at one time, years after we had started, and she could not contain the tears of joy as the service unfolded before her and as she saw the faces of all the people here, because she knew she had been a part of all of this. And I remember one of the things she said to me, I never forgot it, I held on to it during those years. She said, you know, birthing a church is like birthing anything else. Birthing is messy. It's messy. You get a little bit on you sometimes. But I'll tell you what it means to us. And women, please forgive me. I can't speak for you and the pains of childbirth, but no one has ever not said this to me, that it is worth it. It is worth all the pain that you go through to have the children, and it's worth the pain in the rearing of children and in being relationship. Wherever you're in relationship, I can tell you this, there will be pain. Where you are related to one another and where you are related to society, where you connect, there will be pain. I almost want to apologize for that, but I don't hear God apologizing for the pain. Instead, in Christ, we see God participating in the pain, even saying that these things are necessary. They are necessary. Today, when we go to the meeting, you're going to meet the leadership team for next year, and you're going to meet probably the newest group in the life of the church, the serving elders. These are people that have been asked to serve for 2 years by taking care of the table and the communion elements. And I'm very clear when I select these people. When they say, how did you ask me? Why are you asking me to do this? I know exactly what to say. There are 3 things I have observed in your life. One is that you are faithful because you're here on Sunday. I mean, let's break it down to the bare bones. You ask people to serve who are here. The people who are not here very often, you really kind of don't ask. It has to be folks that you can depend on. You know they're going to be here. Number 2, you are loyal. Loyal meaning that when things get rough here, you have demonstrated that you're not going to cut and run on us. So you're going to hang out. When you disagree, you're going to hang out when things are not good, knowing that we're going to get through it and things will be good again. And number 3, you're a person who has a heart for God's people. Because one of the things we do as elders is pray for the church and pray for the life of the church. We pray together monthly. We pray in our own homes and in our own private prayer lives for this church and for its members and its people. Remaining loyal when things get rough is a big deal. Staying with it when it doesn't work out. It's a big deal. And I'm not sure that we're good at it anymore. It's too easy to change churches. It's too easy to change partners in life. It's too easy to get out of one thing and into the next one without even finishing up what you were doing the first time. I remember this story. I want to tell it again today. That when my first number one daughter got married, I attended the wedding, and like with both of my older daughters, who grew up for 15 years in the house with a stepfather who was very, very much a part of their life. And today I can say I'm thankful for that man. A man who I was jealous of for many, many years. A man who I couldn't always say I was grateful for, but I am very thankful for his presence in their lives. So there I was at number one daughter's wedding, and stepdad walks her down the aisle and gives her away. And I am running a video camera. Well, I thought about that many years later. I thought about the pain of being the one running the camera and not the one giving her away. And the first thing I thought was, it is right. It is right because he was there for all of those formative years when I was the non-custodial parent. I was the visitation parent. I was the guy who made phone calls, wrote letters, and showed up once a year. But he was there day by day. So when it came time to give her away, he had something to offer more than I did. It was right. But you know what? They didn't keep it from hurting. Didn't keep it from hurting at all. And I wasn't upset at her. I was upset at myself for having let this happen. I was upset at God because there hadn't been a better answer than this. But this is how things just kind of ended up. And then God spoke to my heart in the quiet of meditation and said to me this, you know, it has to hurt. It has to hurt because if it didn't hurt, can you imagine what kind of person I would be? If I could have gotten through that and not felt something, can you imagine what kind of person I would be? What kind of relationship I would have with that daughter and with my other children if I could get through something like that without feeling any pain? And thank God that I have been nudged in a way to recognize the pain, maybe even sit with it a while and accept it for its truth, but not to hang on to it to the point of allowing it to destroy me. I sat just weeks ago crying for my father because I wasn't sure he was going to live. And I was being counseled by one of my pastors who said to me, these tears are a good thing because the pain means that you have something in there to be grateful for. There are many people whose relationship with their parents have been severed or maybe never connected at all. And so the fact that you can come to the end of someone's life feeling something as strong as loss and pain is a good thing. And then I'm reminded of what Richard Rohr says. These kinds of pain and these kinds of loss are the only things that have the real strength to get the full attention of your ego. That I realize that it's in these moments that I'm the most teachable. That God can do the most with me. And sometimes it's in the soft voice of a pastor or a friend leaning across the table to say your pain is a good thing today. The relationship you have with this person is something to be celebrated even in the pain, and that's evidence of it. Relationships are always risky, always painful, and yet always worth it. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't know anything that was worth it if we weren't willing to take that risk. Sometimes we have to really allow it to get the attention of that ego. I remember 2.5 years of separation from my wife and watching people in 2 months hire lawyers. And I'm saying again, wait. Some of you have been through that. I remember the pain of seeing my son in and out of the house, not knowing whether we were happier with him on the streets or happier with him at home. And everything is just wait for a day to come that I'm in no control of. And so it's been here in these number of years that we've had challenges, but the answer has been wait and stay loyal. As Richard Rohr would say again, hold the pain until it's taught you what it is there to teach you. Now, I'm going to say this one more time because I think Richard would want me to. We live in a time when depression is so real that there's a balance. Don't hold it too long. Don't define yourself by it. Don't let it begin to govern the rest of your life. But don't be so quick to say, this is not good and I need out. Because there is a great blessing in remaining. I'll close with this. One more time, a quote from Nadia Bolz-Weber, who says, when people join my church, I always say to them this and then ask them this question. I say to them, you know, there's going to be a day when I'm going to say something that's going to upset you, or someone else in the church is just going to rub you the wrong way. So can you decide now when that happens? Are you going to leave or are you going to stay? Heard a great song on the radio the other day. It said, if I'm locked away, will you still love me then? If I lose it all, will you still love me then? Here's the big one. Here's the big one. If ever I can't be strong, will you still love me then? I want you to know that today God loves you. And I love you, and I'll bet somebody else here at Wylie Christian Church does too. All thanks be to God. Will you pray with me?